So who's at risk? You are, unless you don't have a brain. So what I want you to leave here today is with the knowledge that this is inevitable, the reaction. Do you have to suffer from it? Absolutely not. The whole point is to do all the things that you know are healthy so that you don't suffer from the inevitable trauma and fatigue. So, what are you supposed to do? You tell me. What are you supposed to do? Just shout. And I'm going to apologize to the interpreter. So, because we have an interpreter here, if you could just maybe shout them out one at a time so that they can interpret. Maybe just raise your hand and I'll call on you. And just go really loud so she can hear. Yes?
You have to have outlets.
You have to have outlets. I'll repeat them. How's that? Will that work if I repeat them? Great.
Sleep.
You have to sleep. Yes. What else?
Meditation.
Meditation. Yes. Exercise. Yes.
Be mindful of what you eat.
Be mindful of your eating. So, okay, that's 5. Have any of you had the reaction of, oh shit, I had no idea? Right? None of this is like earth-shattering. Look, this is what the research actually says. Is any of that earth-shattering? No, of course not. No, none of this is earth-shattering. But do you do it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. This talk is about trying to encourage you to recognize that you will not last very long in this field if you don't do this. Yes, ma'am.
Embrace complexity, practice active optimism. What is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That one is a little bit like, no, really? All that means, to put that in simple English, is understand that shit happens. Right? That's what that means. Like, understand that trauma happens to people, and it doesn't mean that the world is a horrible place or a bad place. Like, you've heard the phrase, life is not fair? Yeah, it's true. It's true. The Cubs won a World Series years ago, right? Sense of meaning. Sense of meaning means find a deeper sense of why things occur. My own personal sense of that is I connect to a higher power. I believe everything happens for a reason. Now, a cynical atheist friend of mine said, yeah, we'll tell that to the victims of Sandy Hook. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. It's one of the reasons why I'm grateful to still be on the planet. Does that make sense? So meaning is all about, from my perspective, connecting to something larger than yourself. And however you choose to do that, doesn't matter whether it's in a religious context or not, but being connected to something greater than yourself is essentially what that means. Yes?
When I went to go give a lunch talk at University of Michigan to some law students, it was the Asian American student group, I told them that I see a therapist. I was there as their featured speaker as like a lawyer to talk about immigration and stuff, and I thought that it was good to pass upon the message to the younger generation that, yeah, like lawyers see therapists. That's normal. That's good for you. And they ask me the same things about self-care.
Yeah. You know, if you do this work, you ought to have a therapist on speed dial. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Or a really good friend that you can talk to about this stuff. But, you know, can you always share the details? Not always. You can't always share the details.
This is just a comment in general. I don't know if you heard there's some engineers, I just read this, that are working for Facebook that are exhibiting the symptoms of PTS because they're the group of people that are looking for child porn. So they're kind of trafficking in that like really dark place, so they're really exhibiting that.
I had the honor of training at the National Advocacy Center, which is where the FBI and all the federal agents go to have their training. And on my day, I was preceded, the day prior to me was somebody talking about how do you work child molestation cases. And this absolutely came up because if you work for the National Center that like looks through all this stuff, they are required to go to therapy. You cannot work there without going. They have a therapist on staff or a couple. So yeah, if you view that stuff, vicarious trauma, Hello. So okay. Go ahead. We're getting a little short on time, and I hate not ending on time because I've been that presenter who the other selfish presenter has stolen my minutes. And I'm not a violent guy, but I want to punch him in the face. I kid. It's just a joke. Yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like also looking at the individual, you have to like make sure you're fostering like an open environment in like your community and at work that is open to hearing like the stresses that you're going through. And,
Yes.
You know, because I feel like sometimes you are wanting to express and you're just met with like a wall from a friend or somebody who just doesn't, you know.
Yeah, that's that first piece about we have to have a paradigm shift, and it's got to be at an organizational level, both personal and organizational. So those of you who are leaders, those of you who are, where's our executive director? Is she still here? She had a meeting. Of course she did. She's an executive director. They all have meetings. That's the person that you want to talk to about how do we ensure that our agency is having conversations about vicarious trauma and changing the conversation. Now, I did want to share this little, if you do have to observe disturbing images, play Tetris or Angry Birds, there's a study that has shown that when you distract the brain, it appears to disconnect some of the consolidation of the memory, which is wicked cool. So let me just take you through a couple of things. First of all, let me just ask you these 4 questions. Do you remember why you do what you do? When was the last time that you sat with it for a few minutes and just remembered why you do what you do? And do you remember why you care? When was the last time you reminded yourself why you care about all of this? And do you remember what you stand for? Have you thought about what do you believe? What are your values? And do you remember who you are? Because we can get lost. You can get lost when you start to get affected by other people's experiences. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is take some time on at the very least a weekly basis and sit with this stuff and just remind yourself. And you know what? Cry. And a famous hero of mine, his name was Leo Biscaglia. He was known as the Hug Doctor. I don't even know if he's still alive. And Jim Valvano, the basketball coach at North Carolina State, mirrored this in his famous talk at the ESPYs when he was dying of cancer, which is this notion that you should cry every day. And they can be tears of joy, they can be tears of sadness, they can be tears of fear, it doesn't matter. Or they can be tears for fears. And the point being that when you express that level of emotion, as Jim Valvano said, he's like, had a great life or what? Like, how rich is that to experience depth of emotion? So I would encourage you to ask these 4 questions. I would encourage you to be intelligent. I mean, excuse me. What do you get, a free bowl of soup with that hat? Well, it looks good on you. Be intentional. So if you've noticed a gap, a missing piece, be intentional. Schedule and plan. Because remember, practice makes permanent. And if you haven't been practicing, you've got to schedule it, you've got to structure it so that you'll remember to. Practice mindfulness. This is a study done with law enforcement. They actually experienced something called post-traumatic growth, not post-traumatic stress. It is possible to experience growth. Now, as therapists, you all, this table has a very unique opportunity that the rest of you don't have. They get to watch people change. Attorneys, you very rarely get to see the fruits of the therapeutic labor. So, practice mindfulness. In the last 2 minutes that we have, I want you to just notice your breath. So right now, just notice your breath. Your mind wanders, wandering mind, back to noticing my breath. You can do this all day and no one's going to know. Nobody will ever accuse you of being a hippie. Lastly, I want you to be aware of something called rituals of containment. If you work in this field, have something that gives you permission to let go when you leave the doors of your office. My friend Brandy Fazil, who I worked with at the Department of Corrections, we had a little deal that when we walked out the doors, we went, bye-bye. Remember the old Saturday Night Live? Bye-bye, bye-bye. If that was our ritual of containment. Terry, will you talk a little bit about the wall of weird in my last few minutes here?
Sure, quickly. So in our office, we have a whiteboard that's about the size of the screen up there, the size of the PowerPoint screen. And it's at the end of our hall, and whenever anyone in the office, we overhear something, we read something that's funny, weird, off the wall, crazy, we write it on the wall. And so every other person in the office, whether it's visitor or coworker, when you come in, you stop and you look and you see all these weird things written on the wall. And they make you laugh, they make you wonder. And then at our staff meeting, before staff meeting, all the staff votes on which is their favorite wall of the weird. And sometimes you don't even know what you're voting on. You just see this crazy thing. Like, I'm going to literally post Chris's statement, NCBLI will suck the life out of you. I'm going to put that on the board when I get home. And so people are going to, then I'll have a story to tell about, where did that come from? And so
I'm so screwed.
We have a lighthearted moment where we discuss in the winter, whoever posted the most popular statement on the wall, the weird, gets to draw from a gift bag, which is filled, everyone in the office donates weird, sometimes good, there's Starbucks gift cards in there, everyone wants those, into the bag, so you get to draw. So it makes staff meetings, which were once really kind of long and boring, get a little bit of fun, a little bit more interesting, and we all laugh, and we all get to talk a little bit about what's going on.
And has that changed? Were things always that way before the wall of weird?
No. I mean, it's definitely made staff meetings much more enjoyable.
Yep. And what I would suggest too is that having been a visitor to NCBLI, I have witnessed people walking down the hallway and say, "Did you see such and such on the wall of weird?" Let me remind you of mirror neurons. You've heard the phrase, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you're a Cubs fan. I don't know, whatever. Think about that first part. If I smile at you, how hard is it to not smile back? Because mirror neurons, you see my smile. So smile more. I know that sounds touchy-feely, but it's based in science, people. Smile more. When you smile at someone, it's really hard not to smile back. Really hard not to smile back. And you feel good. You feel good because what are these mirror neurons connected to? They're connected to your limbic system. So I'll leave you with these 3 thoughts. And they're all about connection. You got to stay connected to your support system. You got to stay connected to yourself, and you got to stay connected to your mission. I work for the military. I'm really honored to work for our military, and they've taught me that part of being in the military is called mission focus. And you don't stop until you complete the mission. Well, you have a mission. Keep it in mind. Don't lose sight of your mission.